we know that people in our community can sometimes lose family and friends because of them coming out as who they are, because their family or their friends or society may not accept them for who they truly are. And that's a loss as well. When you show up and you try to be authentic and you say to your family and your friends who you are, and they reject you, and maybe even you no longer have a relationship with them at all, that's a grieving process that you have to go through, because that's a big loss as well. And sometimes it's better that these people are no longer in our life, but it doesn't make it any easier that you have to go through the process of pain and grieving because of that as well. So welcome to the Queer Quest podcast, your beacon of light and sprinkle of glitter in the queer community. I'm your host, Cristiano Green, CEO and founder of Queer Quest and a transformation coach for queer individuals. And together, we're embarking on a journey of transformation. Each week, we bring you a new training topic, all connected with visionary queer leaders in healing and coaching, diving deep into conversations that inspire growth, celebrate diversity, and empower you to live authentically. So wherever you are, settle in and let's get ready to unlock the vibrant potential within. This is where your quest begins. Hello, all you fabulous souls, and welcome to this episode of the Queer Quest podcast. I'm your host, Cristiano Green, the CEO and founder of Queer Quest and a transformation coach for the queer community. Now, this week on the podcast, I wanted to talk about grief. Now, over the past week, I unfortunately lost my beloved Possum, my beautiful dog, my greyhound, and my dog Possum came into my life at the perfect time. And she was a dog that literally healed me and helped me to sort out my life and change my life and go on this journey of healing and growth and transformation. And it's really led me to where I am today. And as I lost her, I really just thought, what an opportunity to discuss grief, because I know that it's something that people don't like to always talk about. And maybe it's a topic that we don't always necessarily know too much about and understand that grief comes in many different forms. So today I really wanted to talk about the different types of grief that we go through. I wanted to talk about disenfranchised grief, and I'm going to talk about what that is. And I want to talk about compound and collective grief, the barriers that we have to grieving, like having some inclusive support systems around us, healing and resilience, share a bit of my personal story and experience with grief, and maybe share some resources and outreach that you can use if you are dealing with grief, so we can help you heal and grow and transform, and know that it's okay to do that as well. So what are some of the different types of grief that we can go through? So I think most people think of grief as when someone passes away, when someone dies, whether that's your family, a friend, a pet. In my case, this week it was a pet, but I've lost many people to who've passed on to death, whether that has been death due to old age, whether it's death due to cancer or another disease, or a death from some sort of tragedy, like someone committed suicide, right? And in this community, the queer community that we're in, a lot of people unfortunately do go due to suicide, right? It's something that is more common in this community than it is not. So it's kind of, the way that it is when it comes to that kind of a grief. So that's that kind of a loss. But, when someone gets sick as well, a family member or someone that you can see physically, the grieving process can start early. If you know that someone's going to pass away, and say you're someone who's been taking care of a family member, whether it's been for a short period or long period, you can already automatically start that grieving period before that they're even gone, because your body is trying to process and trying to almost help you through that stage as well. So you can also grieve for someone who is potentially dying. Like that's what's happening, is that they're passing on. But when we talk about other kinds of grief, you can have grief when you have a breakup, a heartbreak, right? You have a relationship, an intimate relationship, and whatever happens on one side or the other, you end up breaking up. The end relationship is over. That's a loss. That's a deep loss sometimes. Some of the most, important relationships that we have are intimate relationships, and sometimes they don't work out. And so when you lose a partner because you break up, you have to grieve the loss of that person and the loss that has in your life. And maybe sometimes the expectations of what you wanted your life to be. And so that grief can be really difficult to process and understand, because maybe we don't feel like it's grief because the person's not dead. But in our life, they are dead if they're no longer in our life. So we kind of also have to process that as well. And also, that can be the same when you may lose friendships or people in your family. Now, we know that people in our community can sometimes lose family and friends because of them coming out as who they are, because their family or their friends or society may not accept them for who they truly are. And that's a loss as well. When you show up and you try to be authentic and you say to your family and your friends who you are, and they reject you, and maybe even you no longer have a relationship with them at all, that's a grieving process that you have to go through, because that's a big loss as well. And sometimes it's better that these people are no longer in our life, but it doesn't make it any easier that you have to go through the process of pain and grieving because of that as well. So it's kind of good to understand that there are multiple types of grief that we go through, and it's good to have the discussion about it so that we can relate to that. So maybe you're feeling some of this grief and you're like, why am I feeling this? It's valid, and I want you to know that as well. Now, we all know that there are certain things that, you might, I guess what I'm trying to say is it can be difficult when, for example, if you have a secret relationship, right? Or people that, like you, for example, not every single person in the queer community is open to the family, right? And you might be in a relationship with someone and that relationship is over. It's hard for you to go through grief when you can't share that with other people. So you can't go home to your family and say, hey, my partner has, we broke up and I'm heartbroken and I'm grieving. Or even worse, you might have had a partner who passed away and you realize that, your own family doesn't accept you for that. So that's just kind of what we talk about disenfranchised grief, is that certain griefs are not socially acknowledged or validated. And so when you have a secret kind of relationship, it's hard to grieve in silence because you can't share that with someone else. Because oftentimes it's easier when you have people around you, support systems that can really be there for you. So really being able to understand that that's also an impact that we can have when we talk about grief, that's something, I wanted to mention as well. Now, sometimes, we can go through multiple losses at the same time. If there's a tragic accident, something can happen where you lose multiple people at times. Or it could be like, back in the time when we had the AIDS crisis, people were losing one person after another, after another, after another. So this is called compound and collective grief, right? You may not necessarily know every single person that's passed away, but you're feeling the grief for a whole community, right? You're feeling the loss. And like I said, you might know people as well, and it's one after another, it's compounding on you. But the collective grief as well is like, I'm grieving for this entire community because I see how many people are dying. I'm hearing it on TV and it's directly affecting and impacting me because this is my community as well. So that's the kind of stuff that we also have to understand as well, that you can grieve people that you may not have met. You can grieve a community because you can feel that pain, especially if you can relate to it. You might know one person, but you've heard about hundreds or thousands of people grieving. Like, when you hear some of these crazy war stuff, like you can grieve for that stuff, even though you never knew the person, you're grieving for that and for their families. It's like a collective energy that we feel as well. So that's stuff that it's really important for us to talk about as well when it comes to grief as well. Now, there can be a lot of barriers to grief, and addressing challenges that queer people face in accessing support, when it comes to grief counseling, and also sometimes the social stigma that may prevent people from seeking help, right? If you don't necessarily feel like you can find a supportive person to speak about, it can be really hard for you to be able to grieve, right? Like I said, when it comes down to that disenfranchised grief, you can't talk to your family about the loss that you might have for a partner in a breakup because they don't know about who you are. Then it can be hard for you to get to a barrier of grief because, again, you may not have anyone around you that you really trust. I hope that you do, because that can help you. When you share that, get it out, that's part of the journey of grieving, being able to talk about it, talk about how you feel, which is why so many of my clients come to me like they're in some sort of, usually heartbreak. They're trying to find a new relationship. They're still grieving the loss of, stuff that's happened in their life. And so being able to discuss it and talk about it is one way that we can transform the energy of grief into more, acceptable ways of having that energy within us. So maybe it turns into like a deep sense of like gratitude for that relationship and the time that you had with that person, instead of this, oh my God, they've gone out of my life, I don't know what I'm going to do without them, which can sometimes be the case as well, which is why it's so important to have and find inclusive support systems. Because again, not everyone understands the grief that we go through. Like, imagine telling someone who hasn't been rejected by their family for who they are and talking to them about it. They can maybe sometimes imagine it, but they can't necessarily relate to you properly. So finding a sense of community, which is the thing that we do at QueerQuest, is having a community of people that, like I said, go on the journey of growth and healing and transformation, and like I said, processing things, but also having a sense of community of other people who can relate to what you're going through. So QueerQuest is a great space if you're someone who's looking for an inclusive support system to help you go on a journey of the healing, the growth, the transformation, just being able to talk about how you really feel as well, finding other people that can share in those experiences that you've been through as well.
In a world where every journey is unique, one path shines brightly for the queer community. Introducing QueerQuest, the first of its kind personal development platform designed exclusively for us, by us. At QueerQuest, we understand the multifaceted journey of queer identity. That's why we've created a space where you can explore, learn, and grow with the guidance of queer experts from around the globe. Whether you're seeking to enhance your physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual well-being, QueerQuest is your gateway to transformation. Imagine embarking on quests tailored to your journey of self-discovery, finding community, and unlocking your queer excellence. QueerQuest offers online courses, coaching programs, and soon workshops, seminars, retreats, and festivals, all designed to empower you to live your best life. Ready to start your adventure? Join us at www.queerquest.vip to become part of a movement towards personal and collective greatness. Sign up today to join the waitlist and be the first to know when we launch. QueerQuest, where your journey of self-discovery and transformation begins. Don't just dream of a life filled with pride and purpose, make it your reality with QueerQuest. Visit www.queerquest.vip now. Your quest awaits.
Now, when it comes to being able to be, resilient and healing, it's a process. So actually being able to heal from grief, first step is actually acknowledging that you've gone through this as well, like acknowledging the pain. Because I know from myself, like I just lost Possum, and to me, I spent the whole day crying and crying and crying and crying. Now, if this was 4 years ago, prior to me going on the healing journey, I would have bottled it up. I would have numbed myself with alcohol and drugs, and I would have tried to avoid the pain because there was so much compounding pain there that one extra thing, I would have just been like, no, I can't do this. And I would have tried to avoid actually processing it. And that means that would have been kept going in my body. The grief would have been there, and I'm trying to push it away. It's coming at me, and it would hit me with waves and things like that. So really being able to go through a healing journey means that you actually have to be able to sit in that. So for me to be able to sit there and cry and cry and cry and get it out meant that I was processing it. It was a massive shock because a week before, my dog was seemingly like she was in perfect health. She was happy. She was doing her normal things. And then it just came on really quickly. And unfortunately, she'd been going through this for quite some while, but she was not showing any signs of it because she didn't want us to see her in pain. And so that made it hard because it was a big shock, right? I was first going, how can this be happening? That was my first thing. I was like, this can't be happening. This can't be real. This can't be true. And so I was denying it, but I was still processing the emotions. I was going through the shock of it, but I was still getting emotional, upset, going, I'm like, this is happening, but how can it be happening in my brain? It took me a couple of days. And of course, I'm still slowly going through the process. But, the reality is that for you to move past it, you have to accept it, that it's happened. You have to accept that this person's gone, that your beloved pet, your family member, they're gone, or this relationship is over, right? If we try to hold on to stuff and don't know how to properly process it, or we try to numb ourselves and avoid feelings of it, it's still going to be going there. We're still going to have that stuff within us, and we have to allow ourselves to process it, which is why, like I said, there are courses that we're going to have on QueerQuest that are going to be on healing and grief and moving forward, because we believe it's a vital, important part on your journey, and being able to process your emotions and feel them instead of numbing yourself from the world. It's a journey, and it's a journey that I think we should be going on together as well. So being able to heal and learn how to be resilient. Because again, we've all dealt with grief one way or another, whether it's, like I said, from the loss of a family member, a beloved pet, from a heartbreak, from a relationship, from not being accepted by a family, friendships, for having fights with friendships, and those friendships are over, right? Not every friend that you have in your life is going to be there forever. We all know that we've had friends that, we might have had for years, and then something happened and they changed or we changed and we move forward. That's still a loss. That's still grieving. And that's part of something that we need to go through. Now, I lost all of my grandparents when I was quite young. Unfortunately, I didn't, because I grew up overseas, I didn't necessarily have super, super close relations with them. That's something that I also felt like I had to grieve as well, because I wish that I had closer relations with my grandparents, because I see so many people have these beautiful relations with them. And I'm like, it's not that I didn't have a relationship with them, but I think that, I wasn't as close to them as I wanted to be. And so I had to grieve that as well. So you understand there's so many layers to grief. And for me, when they passed away, it was very difficult for me, but also I felt like it might not have been as difficult as if I'd obviously been so much closer and I'd known them my entire life. I grew up with them. They were around the corner. They babysat me, things like that. I didn't have that experience, growing up with my grandparents. Lots of love there, but it's different. So again, each loss is going to be different to you, because something's going to mean differently and hit differently, and you shouldn't feel like one loss needs to be the same as another, or that if you don't feel the same for one, that you're a bad person as well. So just acknowledging that it's going to be different every time, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be the same, because again, we all love people and pets and different things differently. Every love is different, and for us, it's just about accepting that and acknowledging that as well. Because if you love someone differently, you're going to grieve them differently. And this is part of the process, is that grief doesn't come in just one form. It can come in anger. It can come in sadness. It can come in real deep pain. It can come in with guilt and shame, right? We all have these things. Something's happened and you wish you didn't have a fight with that person and they're gone, right? Or, you have someone who you didn't get to say what you wanted to say to them, or you didn't get to spend that last time with them, and you didn't tell them that you loved them as much as you wanted them to. All of that will affect, again, your process as well. And again, acknowledging that, knowing that you can actually still communicate effectively through a process, through different meditations, right? I've got a grief meditation that's actually going to be coming out this week. That's going to help you process through grief. So if you're someone who is dealing with it right now, come back tomorrow. This is coming out on a Monday. So if you come back on the Tuesday, you'll be able to notice that meditation will be also available exactly where you're listening to this, whether it's on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, on Google, or Amazon, wherever you're listening. That'll be a bonus meditation, because I bring out bonus meditation every single week that talks about the topic that I talk about here on the beginning of the week. So if you're someone who wants to go out and listen to some of these meditations, check back. You're going to find a whole lot of cool ones for you to listen to as well. So yeah, I want to hear about your stories of grief. I know that it can be difficult to process grief. I've had many. And like I said, for me, it hit me like a ton of bricks this week. I'm still in some way a little bit in disbelief that it happened like this, because I was only in Australia visiting and spending time with Possum just 2 months ago. And it was like nothing had happened. We were going on beautiful walks, running on the beach together, spending quality time, getting beautiful hugs. She was loving. I'm grateful for that time. So I have gratitude and I'm looking back at all the things and the memories that I have from my beautiful Possum. And I know that she's in a better place. She's not in pain. So I have some love and some gratitude for that as well. So these are the things that we want to work on, is start to look for the positives here in every situation. And that'll also help you move past grief. So if you're someone out there struggling with grief, you want to have someone to talk to, you can reach out to me. I deal with a lot of clients who go through grief. And if it's something that you feel like you're struggling with and you need some support, don't do it alone. If you don't have other people to talk to, you can reach out to me on social media. I'm responsive there. I send out my emails. You can reply to those emails. Wherever you know me for and you contact me from, you can comment below if this is you on YouTube. Any person who contacts me, always get back to them as well. So if you've got a story you want to share, got some questions, you just need someone to speak to and connect with and maybe get some help with, reach out, because I want to be the support system for you. I'm going through it myself, but I also know that I know how to go through the grief process, and I'm allowing myself to do that. and I'm learning to be more resilient. And like I said, sharing it is cathartic. I've shared a lot of stuff about it over the past few days, and just being able to talk about it and share how I feel is taking a weight off as well. And, like some people say that you should be, feel like you shouldn't be able to move on so quickly from a loss. It's not about moving on. Healing isn't about moving on and forgetting about that person. There's no, I should be in pain for 6 months because that's to show that I love them that much. Like that doesn't matter. Like whoever passed on doesn't want you to be in pain. They actually probably love you enough as well. And so you being able to heal and move past it and hold their beautiful memories in your heart, that's the most important thing that you can do. And that can take a short period of time, that can take a long period of time. It really depends on the individual as well. But I really wanted to talk about grief this week because I know it's a topic that we all go through in life. And I just want to make it something that we can normalize and not be such a taboo topic as well. So that's me sharing my journey of grief this week and, my thoughts on the topic. Again, if you have questions, you want to share some additional stuff, you know how to get in contact with me. And I'm going to be back here, like I said, dropping a meditation tomorrow. And then later in the week, there'll be an interview that I'll be sharing on the Queer Quest podcast. But until then, always remember that you've got this and I've got you. Bye for now.
Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards love and happiness? Introducing the 21-day Gay Man's Guide to Love and Happiness. This isn't just a course, it's a pathway to discovering your true self, overcoming challenges, and embracing happiness. Join hundreds of gay men who found joy and freedom. Learn from Cristiano Green, a coach with 20 years experience and a journey like yours. For a limited time, get this life-changing course at 75% off with a 100% risk-free guarantee. There's nothing to lose, but so much to gain. Your new life is just a click away. Enroll in the 21-day Gay Man's Guide to Love and Happiness today. Visit theglobalpridecollective.com and start your journey towards a happier, more fulfilled you.